Alrighty, welcome. This is the second time recording this. I had a friend of mine point out something in one of these images that just made me have to redo all of this. This is pretty cool. So, two different things we're going to tackle today: old school and misinformation instigators, creators, something. Yeah, maybe Masons undercover, whatever it is. I don't know. I've got an interesting point to bring to the table for people who are already within this research. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, the research is pertaining to like Tartaria, mud flood, the concept that humanity is a species with amnesia, and that we actually founded a lot of this country. We did not build this country. So some of these capitol buildings in your average downtown location, um, cathedrals, churches, whatever, some libraries, things like that, government buildings, were actually not built by our people. You know, the founding people of this country, pilgrims didn't do this stuff. So if you're new to that, I would suggest you go to the channels that I will link below. My Lunch Break is one of those channels. He's great. John Levi, he's fantastic. He's how I found this information. Geomancy, he's a very knowledgeable gentleman. Um, but yeah, so this information is pertaining to that subject. So if you don't know anything about that, I would really urge you to go check out this other material first. You'll find that those channels provide absolute proof as to what I'm discussing. Um, we did not create the Capitol building in Iowa. We didn't do that. It's just like how everyone hypothesizes about the Egyptian pyramids. Well, there's pyramids across the entire world that are unspoken for, unclaimed. We don't know anything about our history. So, yeah. But anyway, really quickly, just kind of a fun go through here. I wanted to show this old school. I went to this school years and years ago as a junior high, which was at the time in the state of Wyoming was 7th and 8th grade. So previously it was a high school. It was the original high school or one of the original high schools. You never know with these stories, right? But anyway, we'll look at some of this stuff. One of these pictures is very interesting. Again, like I said, one of my friends pointed out something. Wish I'd seen the first time. So as you can see here, just good brickwork. Kind of awkward though. Lockers are inset really well. Just a nice hallway. But if you do notice, actually, let me bends around there. So the hallways of this place are kind of set up like a hexagon, octagon. Just pretty intricate. It's not your typical just square structure with hallways going parallel to each other. It's cutting these hexagonal, octagonal like hallways. This was the main entrance. A lot of beautiful brickwork. I mean, really, when you look at that, that's kind of excessive. In our world, our research, it does seem excessive. These doors were very heavy, possibly original. I don't know. This was the nurse's office, actually. Main stairs entrance right here. Aquafina water. That's all we could get. Yeah. Auditorium. Very simplistic. Again, what's with the beautiful architecture? A little excessive for a school in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. Very minimal population. I'll have to really check into that. Actually, I do see in one of these images, you'll see the date that this place was erected, and so it definitely was not the first high school. I take back what I said earlier. Yeah, we were the Cougars in junior high, and previously it was the Tigers for the high school. Real interesting smoking gun here, though. If you're involved in this research, you know a little bit about the fireplaces, how they're kind of telltale signs of old world structures as well, because they were clearly not meant for burning wood in them. And you'll see oftentimes people burning wood in these things, and they just clearly wasn't made for that. It's too ornate. You don't want charring and stuff. But it looks like this one they actually maybe converted to gas. I think this was an actual gas one at some point. But these two rods, right? If you know about the research, They talk about how these things are maybe radiating like a conductive heat. All of this itself would get hot and it would just kind of be pushed towards you. We don't know much about it, right? But anyway, the big is this. Like, look at this. Can you make out these figures here? It's kind of hard to see them, but there's like Mayan, Aztec, Incan, whatever you want to call it. Do we really even know who was who was where? You know, big serpent going across the top. Very interesting. Guy bowing here, sitting crisscross maybe. Guy kneeling here, and it's really hard to see, but he looks like his mouth is exaggerated. Very similar to the Nephilim stories. If you followed, I think it's Conspiracy RS. Forgive me if it's not him. Does the Nephilim look like clowns videos? This guy has what appears to be white lips and like an open mouth, and he's kneeling. Can't really make out much of the other characters, although very interesting. Like, what are these shapes? Is this a being? Like, what is this? I really wish I could see this. Again, this was erected, I'll just tell you, we didn't get to the picture yet, in 1931. Just, why would you choose that? That's not a style that I think of when I think of 1930s Wyoming. They're gonna do this, a nod to Native Americans or what? When we were supposedly still hyper racist and we had just, committed genocide against all these people. It doesn't add up. Here's another good shot of the hallways and how they turn like that. You'd come in through the main entrance over here and you could go right, which would be right here, octagonal shape. You go straight down the main stairs, or left and go to another octagonal shaped hallway. There's a bathroom, the shower rooms and stuff, and what I notice here is the ceiling is false. You don't have that in any of the other images. Like, they really had to convert this room. I know it's not much, right? Oh, so what? I mean, that's really a minute detail, but it does show that this structure might have been here and that they had to build a facade over the top of it, right? Because if you're building this place with the intention of it being a school, you intend on having this locker room, shower room section, why would you have this? Everyone knows that this would facilitate rot, steam, water accumulation. I mean, it's just not good. It doesn't make sense. You think you would make the ceiling out of concrete or something that's not going to be so porous. Just a small observation. I think this might have been where they kept some of the sports gear or something. I really don't know. It looks similar to a gate that I saw in the lower rooms by that locker room. Interesting wrought iron work. Or wrought iron maybe, I'm not sure. The school had a shooting range underneath it, right? I don't think this is the section that was actually made for shooting, because there was an archery range and then there was also a shooting range section. And again, I have to press the idea of, like, you made this building with the intention of it being a school. If you know you're going to have a shooting range section, you would make it a little more, or a little less drab, I would say, right? You got these weird, like they're sealing things up or something, just crummy. When you have the inside of the place looking like this, it's not comprehensible to me that they'd make it just so drab. The pool, the classic pool room, these big weird windows. This one was halfway bricked up. Like, why is that? Why is that? Yeah, this place was something else. If you know anything about the pool rooms and a lot of these old repurposed structures, they always turn things into pools and waterworks of some kind. You just wonder what these really were, because I have no idea. There's some people who are putting that information together, I'm sure. Um, Interesting setup. I think we get a closer up picture of this brick, that awkward door. Some names on the brick. I know a Bucho. Emily Obracto. I actually do know her. My dad knew her father, and a couple of people I know are still good friends with her. It's pretty crazy. It's cool that her stuff was on there, but now this place has been demolished. So here's another image of that gym. See, these bricks were replaced. You just gotta wonder, you know, why is it silver? It's really odd. There's the laminate of the original high school logo. Yeah, see, erected AD 1931 to 1932. So they built this puppy in a year, just like all the other buildings. I wish you could get a real scale for how big this whole little construct was. A little memorial to somebody that died, apparently. The Pledge of Allegiance. That really honors him. Missing a piece on the corner there. Just covered up that cool triangular brickwork I see. Just like that one. Another thing that you'll notice is this has room to be a larger door. Like we see on a lot of old world structures, there's theory that giants, helped make this stuff because the doorways are just unnaturally big. And you'll see them have to make up for that a lot of times when they're repurposing these things. So, huge door structure, potentially. You see they slapped East Junior High School when it was just a high school. You can see that, like, it's possible that these bricks here were once smooth all the way over. And they re-inscribed it, like chiseled that in, the high school portion itself. Interesting spouts, drainage. You can see they replaced one of these squares. Didn't have the right color because it doesn't match this one. And they had to replace this one. Same symbols as well as those inner grating pieces. I wonder what that could be. This was an external wall out there. Now, in my opinion, one of two things. This is either what our actual construction consisted of during the time, and it's dilapidating because it was, their real capabilities, which don't hold up, because these old buildings last for freaking ever, These things are older than they tell us, and they just still stand strong. Or this is older, because we also see that too. You'll see this generation that we're talking about being forgotten about, built on top of a foundation that is of this era, older. We'll get to a better example of that. Here's another door into the junior high, also giving room to have a larger door. Incredible brickwork, Absolutely. Just to have all the stepping, the layering like that, it's excessive, It's not conducive of the time. So, well, that's the end of the junior high photos. So, pretty cool stuff. But we'll move on here. Moving on to what I really wanted to talk about here. So, there's this gentleman, okay, out here in Wyoming. It's also like this in other towns, but people really rely on like those local social media groups. So this guy posted some photos in some of the Sweetwater County, which is the county that we are residing in here, posting in Sweetwater County. I don't know, some kind of page, right, for the county. People who are all in the area are in there and discussing stuff all the time. And this guy posted some pictures, retro Wyoming, colored images. I took a photo of him and his background for a reason. You'll notice his background image is this. Really odd choice. You know, this room isn't real, or maybe it is real, but this stuff isn't actually sitting there. You know, he's got a really strange photoshopped background, just kind of out of place, right? Well, here's his social media posts here. So I've got one just for reference so you can see it actually all was posted by him, and the other ones are cropped down. So some more colorized photos, right? This one's not too bad. To me, it looks like the background is cropped out. You'll see a lot of those where the background is cropped out where they're trying to either hide spires, towers, airships, whatever, because civilization was more advanced than they want to tell us. These guys are all colored the same. Boom, 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 boom. They all have a dark coloration to them. And then these guys, boom, 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 have this kind of greenish coloration to them. Now that just could be bad, you know, colorization of the images. However, they do kind of look out of place. Like, look at this guy. It doesn't really look like he's lined up with standing on the boat. And even if he is, it's just kind of awkward. Not too big of a smoking gun with this one. It's just awkward, you know. In the picture below, we'll actually get to see better in the next image here. So this one, though, to me is a telltale. Not only is it just the coloration that is making this weird, there's other things, you know. It just doesn't line up. The dirt in front of them, the people. You know, why are they always dressed so nice, but you got these dirt roads, you know? Is that a street lamp, you know, with no sidewalk? I never even noticed that before. What is this pole here? I mean, there appears to be no flag on it. Looks like it'd be a flagpole. But, I mean, again, we go back to that classic John Levi, bless him, always mentions and talks about, you know, when you got something like this kind of brickwork, isn't it tacky to just paint on it? The Wyoming wines, liquors, cigars. You know, and you're writing awkwardly diagonally in between on these pieces of brick. You couldn't come up with a better way of making a sign. You know, you got this intricate brick going across the top. Like, what is that? These are things I didn't talk about in the last run of this video either, so I'm glad we're doing this again. Things appear to be boarded up, or I mean, he's miscolored them obviously or something, but you can still see like wood grain. It looks like, I don't know. This doesn't work. And then the top, you see these rocks jutting out. The cropping is not great, man. There's a cropping going on. You see like the highlight along the edge. Like these are all signs of image doctoring. Just a nice little picture of a downtown theater, probably an old world building. Just given the brick, I'm certain it probably is. Here's a big smoking gun though. Here's the one that really doesn't add up at all, in any way. Like the crop job is just way too bad. You can see these lines. If you follow my mouse here, terrible crop job, wonky, wonky. And I'm assuming there's probably what we call Antiquitech that existed right here that has also been just cropped out. Some sort of device that was up here. You can see these stacks are just cropped in poorly. The clouds behind the whole building are a much more high definition image. You know, I understand colorization for the sake of, you know, giving a photograph some life. But cropping out the background, what would ever compel you to do that? You know, that doesn't make any sense. You can see this structure here is just out of place. So look, for one, it's, my buddy pointed out, it's right in front of that same rock. It's supposed to be right over here somewhere, you know, or over here, or right there. I mean, really, It's pretty close, right down the base of a slope. Zoom, zoom. It's supposed to be effectively right here. Yet this is here now. Not to mention all the bad cropping. I talked about older foundations, right? And even older base to some of these structures. So we didn't build this, but I think this is still newer than the foundation it sits on. Why is that so crumbled? Why is that gone? It's deteriorated. This is clearly supposed to be a new structure, right? Why is the base of this so destroyed? You can see 1, 2 layers of brick are exposed on this side. Over here you've got 1, 2, 3 to 4 layers of brick that are exposed. It's just an uneven foundation. It's partially buried, whatever you want to say. It's clearly not new construction. And in the back here, I noticed this is sloping down. If you follow my mouse here, they cut off the back corner of the whole building. Like, you're not even getting this other part of this window here. They cut off part of this structure. What is this? Terrible crop job. And then you've got these characters. They're decently good at superimposing these characters onto these images and almost making them look believable. But something about this just isn't right. This guy doesn't appear to actually be leaning against this building. He looks cropped as well. You've got this character here and this character here. Why are they both standing? This guy's got his arms at his side, standing on the edge. There's barely enough room for his feet. He's standing on the edge with a knee-high barrier right there where he could just easily just fall. This guy as well, hands behind his back even. Sitting with his back to, it's not right up against there, You look at the perspective here, this guy's cockeyed. He could fall off of there. It's just so strange. These characters just don't look right. I mean, maybe some of them, like, look, it almost looks like these guys were really here. But then they added some of them in. I don't know. But it's just really uncanny that we've got this guy posting it when, yeah, his Facebook cover photo is just the most weird and random Photoshop experience. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, who is this guy? To people that create this kind of research and do this kind of investigation with me here, has anybody else came across these possible like misinformation creators? Image doctorers, people that are still actively cropping backgrounds out of things to try to continue to push the narrative of, oh, look at how far we've come. Who is that guy? Clifford. I dare not ask him myself. So yeah, that's leave a comment. Let me know if you've ever came across something like this. Let me know if you want me to do more content like this. I've got some other stuff in the works. Actually, I am gonna have to post something else. So yeah, thank you.